I'm Liz Grow, and we have got an amazing third part of the show lined up. We've got Wendy Kornberg of Cannabis, Humboldt Sun-Grown Farms, and Igor from AskGrowers.com. I don't want to butcher your last name, your beautiful last name.
I can say it. I did it right. Igor Dunaevsky. There you go.
Dunaevsky. Okay.
There you go. And
I saw the A and the E, and I got really nervous.
Understand. And Igor's company is AskGrowers.com. So Igor, I think we'll just start with you, if you don't mind. Tell us about how you came up with AskGrowers.com. And obviously we know how to find it because it's a .com.
Well, initially, I was a big guy on the plant, had a relationship since high school, I guess, but background, I'm like in online marketing. We do a lot of SEO. So I was always interested to jump into the business, but I never really saw how that would be a fit. And then I saw Leafly and Weedmaps doing like real well. And I felt what was missing is the perspective on the growers, on the producers, on the people who actually, get the actual plant grown and deliver it into the dispensaries. So this is pretty much it. We want to be a marketplace with a focus on growers, tell the story behind brands, behind people. And so basically, when you go to a dispensary and you buy product, we want to be the guys who tell you exactly who is the guy behind the product, or a girl.
Right. And we have one with us, I might add, a grower herself from Humboldt, indeed. Wendy, we've heard your love story, which was a beautiful love story that James told. Okay. But tell us, how did you get involved with the cannabis space? Go ahead.
Well, I'm a second generation cultivator in Humboldt County, so I've always been involved in the space. It wasn't something that, a lot of people discovered later in life in their teenage years or their 20s or their 30s, or sometimes much later than that. For me, it was just, there are plants that are growing and some of them are weed plants.
It's just life for you.
It's just life.
But it's still a challenge because you're dealing with a living thing. And it's one of the reasons why I've stayed away from growing, because I don't feel comfortable. I can talk about it. I can ask questions, but I have a black thumb. I admit it. Okay.
Okay. I don't agree. I don't believe in black thumbs. I know people. Okay. I'm a perfect example. I can grow anything outside, but every single house plant I would kill every single one. Ferns, things that are impossible. Ficus plants. You can't kill this. Oh no, I managed it. Until I started growing orchids, and all of a sudden, for some reason, I can grow orchids really well. So then I started, easing into other things. And there's just an understanding of like not over caring for something and not completely ignoring it. So if you just kind of find a balance and a rhythm, that black thumb will turn green, I guarantee.
Well, I killed an orchid plant already this year.
Well, orchids are easy to kill.
But all of my house plants are thriving. I'm happy to report, Wendy.
Well, you're in Texas. That's not fair. Try and grow anything in New England. Will you please? It's like 10 degrees outside. Igor, you look like you're in a tropical area. I got to ask, where are you calling us from?
Nicaragua.
Wow. I think this is the first call we've ever had. What's that?
But I'm on vacation here. But talking about New England, we actually interviewed a guy who grows outdoor cannabis in Alaska. Because in the summertime, the daylight is very long. And I would love to travel to Alaska and try his cannabis, because I think outdoor growing in Alaska has to do some serious product out there.
Yeah. Have you seen some of the vegetables that come out of Alaska during that season? I mean, they're like, we're talking massive tomatoes, and I've seen some colas, from some folks that I know, growers that I know in Alaska. And it's like magical. I just imagine like what the terp profiles are on them. I mean, what they smell like. It just seems like,
I talked to my first person ever from Alaska today by total coincidence. We connected on Alignable. We set up a little meeting, and he was interested in what I'm doing. And I said, look, I've never talked to anybody from Alaska before. I'd love to talk with you. And then I find out that he's in the business, and now we're actually going to do a show. And Liz, I'm going to recruit you for this for sure, on growing cannabis in Alaska. So Igor, it sounds like you have some connections there too.
Well, we go and interview people around around the country, asking how they grow, what they do. And I just never thought, you have people growing in greenhouse in California where the sun is shining 24/7. And then this guy in between of pine trees and mountains is growing, Alaskan cannabis completely outdoor.
And since you're in Nicaragua, I have no idea what are the laws about cannabis in Nicaragua.
Me neither. I'm on a vacation. I'm taking a break.
That's a good answer.
That's fine. That's fine. Wendy, what are the biggest challenges you think facing the growing industry today? Is it the same as opening a dispensary? Is it access to capital, or is it knowledge and research and the makeup of the plant? I mean, it's kind of a open question.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, a whole 20-hour show in and of itself. But to, kind of simplify it, a lot of it depends on the state. Access to capital is a massive problem. Federal regulation requires that you stay in the state that you grow in or that you're working in. So if you're a cultivator and your state overgrows, which pretty much every single one has either allowed too much cultivation or not enough, what do you do with the excess product? It's, it becomes compost heap, or you sit on it and wait until ideally the market settles a little bit. It's massively problematic. And really what we're seeing is that most people go into it with really starry eyes, and they just don't really get the reality that it is farming. It's farming. You're growing a plant for, a mass product, and that's how that goes. And, the other thing we see a lot of is people coming in from other industries. They're like, well, I do real estate really well, so I can totally do a bang up job on weed. And it's just, then they have, the amount of messages I get from people that are like, oh my God, save my grow. I hired this consultant and they told me to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, who are these people that are consulting? Like, if you're going to hire a consultant, really dig into their background and make sure that they're not going to ruin your business. Because unless you're one of these multi-million-dollar capital companies, you don't have the loss of an entire crop or an entire cycle. It's caution.
Right, Liz.
Amen. Cautionary tale. We experienced something similar here in Texas, Wendy, with the hemp market. We were able to grow in 2020 for the first time. And I think we had a little over 2,000 farmers get their licenses. And I'm sure far less than that actually tried their hand. And this year, only half have reapplied for licenses. And so, that does tell you a lot. A lot of them do go in with just all of these hopes. And, cannabis makes us feel good. Working with the plant, there's an energy about being around it. And, you believe in yourself and you're inspired. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. And then there's real life. And I have to sell what I'm growing.
Exactly. It's still a business. And the joy is there's a huge joy in cultivating this plant. James talked about not being very woo-woo. He says it a lot. And I'm really on the opposite end where I'm just like, oh, there's absolutely an energetic thing that goes on. And it's not just with cannabis, but there's a special relationship there. But you still have to be able to make money off of it if that is going to be your job that creates the finances for your family and yourself. So, balance.
Right. Absolutely.
Igor, what's the most popular question that comes up all the time on your site?
Well, let's put it this way. The most popular question we have for growers is, what's the approach to sustainability? Because, there are many methods how you can approach growing. But I think, the idea why we even started this, approaching growers is, back in the day, in the days before it was legal, if you were lucky, you would know someone who grows weed, and that's how you would get your weed. Otherwise, you would just get it from someone who would, sell it to you, but you wouldn't know the backstory of it. So now when you can actually go and learn about like Wendy, and you can ask her how she grows it, what's her approach, because, it is good that now you can test cannabis. You can test it for the, for the chemical, for the residue. But also, there are many things that every grower or different growers have different approaches. And I think sustainability, I mean, it's like a hype word. Everybody's talking about sustainability. But I mean, there are many things that you can do differently in regards to the plant. And I think it's not only love, though. I think love is the foundation of the whole thing. You know, you want your grower love the plant, right? I mean, when you get the cannabis, you want it to come with the love from the grower, right? But also, I mean, I think Wendy can tell you more, but I think we love growers who are very involved in soil, how they use the minimum amount of chemicals, how they do the compost. And so I think, to me, that is all. Like I'm always excited to hear growers that are very involved in the process. Like you mentioned, many people jump into the business to make money, but I think it's much more than the monies. I think it's a lot of your personal how much you put yourself. What because this is, at the end of the day, this is you. The product you put on the shelves is what is you, how you perceive yourself, you know?
So you're telling me that the grower takes on the personality of the plant, or the plant takes on the personality of the grower?
The plant takes the personality of the grower, 100%, 100%.
Wendy, is that true?
I totally agree. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. I would have guessed the most common question was, what's wrong with my plant? Because that's what we see the most of. But I love that it's sustainability. That's way better.
I have to say, what I love about AskGrowers.com is the fact that it does kind of introduce the grower to the consumer of the end product. You know, I can go on AskGrowers.com and find out about new strains and what maybe a certain strain, what type of effect it'll have on me. Of course, I can click into those grower stories and find out about the grower potentially growing my product. And so that's what I really felt was cool as a consumer, not a grower groupie, we'll say. It's like, that was a really great feature, I think, of the site, Igor.
It's my personal favorite. I mean, I read every single interview. Like, you know, I come up with the questions. One of the first questions I had, do you think people who smoke weed are losers? Because this is the perception we all were, you know, we grew up with. Like in high school, you would always be told that if you smoke weed, you never achieve nothing. You will be like, you know. So I would always come up with that question, and every grower would say, look, man, I smoke, and this is how far I made. So, I mean, if you call me a loser, that's fine. But I mean, you know, I'm a living example of how far you can go.
I love that.
Don't ever call me a loser. Okay. Please don't believe. Okay. All right. And it had to do more with my own ADHD in the 70s than anything else. And the fact that I found out later in life that I was allergic to hops, and I kept puking after I had 3 beers. So the 15 and 16-year-olds in my peer group were giving me crap for not being able to hold my beer. So I turned to an alternative. And guess what? I found out I could actually focus better in class when I had it in my system.
Yeah. Won't it be nice when we live in a world where we don't have to justify our plant intake any longer? Yes. Any of us, it's really, and again, I'm in Texas. I'm deep in the heart of Texas, guys, from behind enemy lines. It's probably why I love growers so much and why I like to be close to them so much. But, you know, truly, it's all of these great conversations and all of this education, like what you're doing at Ganjier, Wendy, is just so incredible. Just educating on a different level. I think it's not just, and I've only got to scratch the surface in my research, but it's a course that I feel like I could get into. I'm not a grower, but I'm a huge fan and I want to learn more from end to end. Could we talk a little bit about that course?
Yeah, and it's you know, it's important that you say you're not a grower, because it's not really for growers. It's not a cultivation course. It is literally a sommelier course for cannabis. Sommelier means a wine steward, so this is a weed steward, and I mean, it's phenomenal. I'm still blown away that I am a part of that project, because, you know, it's what, we're 3.5. We lose track of time. 3 years deep, maybe. Have had the first round of students come through, and we never made it as a pay to play situation. It's always like, listen, this is a real course. This is serious, and you might not pass. And I have not taken the test yet. I will admit it. I'm not like, you know, I helped create the course content and I'm still like, oh my gosh, it's rough. Like it is a lot of information. It covers the history of cannabis, you know, consumption methods, social situations, sales. I mean, like, you know, all of it, genetics, history, all of it. And the information you have to hold in your brain. This is a college course. And then at the very end, there is a test on the systematic assessment protocol, which is an app that we made, which is patent pending, really exciting about that. And the app basically goes through and you take your cannabis or your concentrate and you systematically assess it. And you have to be able to peg it the way that the council has done in order to pass the test. So if you say this was really harsh and the council we all grade everything ahead of time and the council goes through and we say, no, it was actually really smooth. If you miss too many of those, if you're off by too much, you don't pass. So it's incredible. And we're finding that, you know, most of the students that are really studying hard and that are getting together, they're grouping. It's the coolest thing ever. Like they're getting together as a group online and practicing these things. So it's like taking stoners and taking that culture and then elevating it to this insane level that we never would have even thought about 10 years ago. And just seeing the people come together and the connections that are made and the business opportunities and the way people are utilizing this in their own businesses. I mean, mind-blowingly phenomenal. It's probably one of my favorite things I've ever done in my life is to be a part of this program.
God, that is incredible. And at the end, you get to call yourself a gangier.
You get to be a certified gangier.
Gangier.
Not gangier and not gangier.
Texans are going to have a problem saying that now. I got to tell you.
Where would people go to find out about this course and if they wanted to take it and all that?
We are open for enrollment for 2022 this year, I should say. So it's www.ganjier.com and that's spelled like ganja, right? So GANJIER, ganja sommelier, ganjier.
Gotcha. And I know this is a lot of growers keep their secret sauce inside them, right? You grew up in that area. I'm guessing you know quite a few. Is there one basic tip if I'm going to start, okay? If I'm going to start to try and grow a plant, you know, from I'll get my seeds from Green Nexus because he's my buddy, and I get my Bounty because I know that Bounty is where you germinate. It's supposedly the best towel to germinate. Wait, your eyes went up. Am I wrong?
I'm sure. I'm not sure that the towel matters if you're going to germinate in a wet towel.
Okay. I thought that was like the first step. Okay. Maybe I should start with a clone, right? If it was already existing, is that an easier way to start?
So the first step actually is determining where you're going to grow. Are you growing outside or are you growing inside? Because if you're inside, you need lights. And
he who must be obeyed will not allow it in the house. Okay, so it is outside. Maybe it's far, far away.
All right. So if it's out, well, I mean, far, far away. I know that one too. We used to do guerrilla grows where you hiked chicken manure on your bag, in a bag on your back, 2 miles up the mountain. So
no, I don't know that. I don't know that. Right? I'm from New England. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. Well, when it was, again, that's probably a whole nother show, but quick history of cannabis in California is that when it was highly persecuted back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even into the early 2000s, we would do what was called a guerrilla grow, which means that you weren't really growing on your land. You generally were growing in the rancher's territory or possibly on Bureau of Land Management land, or maybe on, your neighbor's property, or maybe on your own property if you had a big enough ranch, but it wasn't anywhere accessible. So you would hike through the woods, you'd take different paths every day so that you didn't create a trail that could be tracked. And this was all to escape the persecution of the helicopters that would fly around and try and eradicate the grow. So you didn't want to be caught when you were in there. So we did things that were wild, like, hiking 2 miles uphill, carrying manure up to a spot that was, prime cultivation location.
I mean, I love my weed, but I'm not carrying manure up a mountain.
Well, you don't have to because she does.
I understand.
I'm not anymore either.
I respect those who do. Okay, I really do. Igor, go ahead. You want to say something?
Jimmy, but I think you really get things too complicated. I mean, it's
I usually do,
you know, and the beauty and the beauty of it, it's like, you know, even if it doesn't happen the first season, you can always like retry. And the thing, it's like, Wendy, tell me, there is like what do you call it? Like there are plants that grow within 3-month period, and then there are the ones that grow like 6-7 months, right? So you can start with the 3-month ones, and it's like, I mean, they're very surviving. I mean, I understand for Wendy, it's a completely different game because it's like industrial production. You know, she has like this really hardcore compliance issues. But for you, I mean, it's like, trust me, it's much easier than you could potentially think. You just give it a shot, and it's like it's a surviving plant. You know, it's a survivor.
I agree with Igor that it's easier than you think, but I do caution people that are the 3-month plant that he's talking about is called an autoflower, and it's not photo period sensitive, so it doesn't react to how many hours of light there are. So if it's a long day or a short day, it doesn't matter. It's going to go through its life cycle just how it would anyway. The problem we're seeing a lot of with autoflowers is that their nutrient cycling is completely different than a photo plant. So they're trying to feed it according to a photo plant, and it doesn't need that. So we're seeing deficiencies and toxicities across the board on new growers that are growing auto plants. So I actually don't recommend you start with an autoflower. I really recommend you start with a photo and either a seed or a clone. Clones are easier because you know you have a female, so that's easier. It's automatically going to be adjusted. Usually those go inside, but if you want them to be outside, you have to pay attention to your light cycle. So don't put it outside without supplementary light unless you have over 14 hours of daylight. Pushing towards 16 is even better. And then you just put it in the ground, like living soil. Get it in real dirt. Don't get it in, dead dirt. Get it in soil, and then water it and just see what happens and go slow. This is the thing. Like the biggest tip I can give new growers is like, if there's something wrong, slow down, because everybody likes to say you put it out there on the internet, right? Igor's nodding. You get this. You put it on the internet and you're going to have 20 people giving you 40 ideas about what's wrong with my plant. And you're going to go across the board, underboard. It's going to be a mess. So just slow it down. If there's something wrong, kind of tap in, see what it might be. There's, you can do testing and things, but really a lot of times nature will self-correct. So just learn how to water, learn how to be mellow, learn how to be zen with your plant, and just chill and just hang out with it.
I like it. Look at Igor's going, that's right. That's right. I like that.
But it's true. It's true. It's a psychological relief, Mm-hmm. It's the time you take with yourself, you think, you balance. And the thing is, we all anticipate to get things tonight, done right now, get results tonight. And you learn that nature has different, distances, different time frames. And it takes time, and you have to be, patient. And you can't smoke it the next day you just,
Let's not even get into that, the extraction part. Go ahead, Liz, you have a question.
So Wendy, being the outdoor grower that you are, what would your advice be to somebody who is putting the plant in the ground outdoors in Texas? No, I'm just kidding. Not really. I have high fences, but should I put a net over it to protect it against the bugs and the critters? That's my main thing. What's going to get it? I've got the sun, I've got the soil. I'm just scared of those just animals and things.
Critters. I like the way you said critters. Yeah, that was cool.
The ugly buggies. Okay, so that is the other tip I would give to people is start 3 times the amount of plants you want to end with. And this is true for all farming. My mom taught me this as a kid with the tomatoes. If you want 10 tomato plants, you start 30. You start 1 for you start 1 for the mice, and you start 1 to cull. So one that's weak genetics, which is hard with cannabis, right? When you're paying $10 a seed, nobody wants to get rid of those. Nobody wants to snip them off because this one was weak. I'm the worst offender on this. Honestly, I can't throw plants away. I'm horrible. But you're supposed to. But as far as bugs go, netting it is an interesting idea. I can't say I would recommend that. Honestly, that seems like going way above and beyond. You might as well just build a little greenhouse around it if you're going to try and do that. But greenhouses create a wonderful environment for all the bugs. So again, that's not necessarily something I'd recommend. In general, a strong, healthy soil creates a strong, healthy plant, and those can fend off bugs. Okay. So every year I get some type of pest. I do. It's normal. I'm like, oh yeah, I think it was actually one of the Ganjier students was like, oh, you have thrips. And I'm like, yep, I sure do. Look at that. There's some thrips on there. They're like, what are you going to do? They said, I don't know. I'm going to watch it. It's not causing a problem yet. And I'm out in nature. There's wind. There's other predatory bugs. I have companion plants. So there's all kinds of other vegetation going on in and amongst the cannabis. There's different flowers that bring in, minute pirate bugs, and it brings in the wasps. And, sure enough, by the end of the season, those thrips they never caused a problem. Nature balanced it out. And it was just kind of, taking it step by step. So if you already know that you're in a zone where you're going to see a certain pest, so that your friends and neighbors have trouble with spider mites, be prepared for that. Get beneficial insects, set those out every single month, and be proactive about it. And then if a problem does arise, tap in with someone like Igor or his group, right? And be like, okay, this is the pest I'm seeing. I need it identified. You cannot eradicate or mitigate pests without identifying what it is first, solidly. Okay, a green peach aphid is going to be treated differently than the hemp aphid. Okay, a spider mite, you're going to treat that differently than a russet mite. So you have to know what your problem is in order to solve it. Same thing with deficiencies and toxicities. If you're just going, I'm throwing everything at it, I don't know what's working, you're probably going to end up in more trouble than you started. So just put it in and let it go. Again, let nature do its course, and companion plant, put other plants around it. Don't leave it isolated by itself.
Wendy, but I mean, based on my experience, though, I see that I think weed is a really surviving plant. It has a strong defense, right? I mean, that's what the smells. Mm-hmm. That's part what the smells comes from, right? Because to scare off the insects.
Yeah, and the resin is a protection as well. So it's called weed. Weed.
Yeah, for a reason.
I mean,
that much I knew. By the way, when I started this whole thing, I didn't realize that there was actually a male plant and a female plant. Okay, and I was not surprised to find out that the only one you really want is the female plant, because they blossom and they're beautiful.
Well, you need the male plant, Jimmy. But
yeah. I know what we're for. Okay, look. Hey, I just want to thank Wendy and Igor. You guys were fantastic. Okay. And the best part about this is we're going to continue the Grow conversation with Liz's show on February 9th in prime time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we want everybody who's been watching this show and adding questions in the chat room to make sure we're trying appointment viewing for the first time. Well, not the first time, but certainly we're going to publicize this a little bit more than we have in the past. Everything else has been organic. So please tune in for that. Wendy, thank you so much. And of course, we can read about you in Skunk magazine, correct?
Yeah. Well, not about me, but
not about you, but you're an editor at Skunk magazine. Is that accurate? Yeah.
Yep. And also, I do a lot of sharing on Instagram. So Sunnabis, Sunnabis, like sun-grown cannabis. And I talk a lot about Korean natural farming, our farming methodology, and things like that on there.
There you go. And Igor, it's askgrowers.com. It's pretty easy, right?
Guns, yeah. I mean, this is it, man. This is it. Guns, yeah.
Enjoy. I tell you, I'm so jealous that he's in a tiki bar in like probably 85-degree perfect weather. And I have to go put on 4 layers just to get home because it's like 15 degrees outside in Boston today. Liz, what great fun. I am so looking forward to her show and so looking forward to welcome to the team, Liz.
Thank you. Oh, it's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be here. And I'm just thrilled to have just gotten to chat with you two. I learned so much. Wendy, I'm just I want to talk to you more. No, I want to talk to you too, Igor, more, but I don't meet a lot of female growers. So just, I don't live in California or in any of the states where it's legal to grow even. So it's really, I love meeting female growers. It's just kind of exciting for me. So.
Great. So guys, thank you very much.
There's less of us than you'd think. So I would love to chat more too.
All right. Well, I have some ideas actually. All right. That'll wrap up this edition of Green Rush Live. I just want to thank my technical staff, Dan French. That's the whole staff. And my production coordinator, Isabel Turner, who continues to marvel at the fact that we get this done every week. And we're very proud of the product that we share with the public. So a reminder again for Liz Grow, I'm Jimmy Young. It's a whole new world of weed out there, people. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
Difference is building a solution for that individual. Not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the cost low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.